last for an hour and a half. We will talk for an hour, and then we will leave the last 30 minutes for answering your questions. So if you have questions, don't hesitate, you can ask them from the start. Let's start. So as you know, this is probably the biggest crisis that the contemporary world has experienced. And this crisis is an event that is leading to an unstable and a dangerous situation, but at the same time, as it is also often labeled, a crisis is a moment of opportunities. And we will see as designers who are professional creatives who are able to deal with change, with imagination, with finding solutions, are dealing with the current situations. I wanted to share with you an insight from the trend forecaster Lee Delcourt, who's been talking about what's happening at the moment in a very interesting way. And she's saying that this coronavirus epidemic will lead to a global recession of a magnitude that has not been experienced before, but will eventually allow humanity to reset its values according to her. So I think that what we're going to try to capture today is this moment of change between a normal situation that we are not even looking at as normal anymore, and how the crisis has helped us seeing everything in a different perspective, and how designers are creating opportunities in this situation. Okay, I just want to also remind that it's not the first time that the world is experiencing such a large-scale crisis, and that in the past, architects, thinkers, designers have responded in very interesting ways. It's interesting to notice that the Bauhaus, who is probably the most important design movement and education movement, was born right after World War I, and that the modern cities of Paris and London, as we know it today, have been completely redesigned after major health and sanitary crisis by Haussmann, and in London after the cholera epidemics in 1954. So we will also have a look on all those examples of how history of design has coped with crisis. Today, designers bring exceptional innovation and creativity, and they quickly adapt their creative skills and talents to help the community and to help society at large. And this is maybe something very new, and we will also focus on that, which is this new role that the society is giving to the designers. Are they able to cope with it? How are they doing it? And we will see what effects it is having, like, on the profession and on the education as well. Okay, there's also much more that leads to innovation than a crisis, and we are going to try to explore how creativity and the designer's mindset has been challenged to find out new solutions. So we are going to explore all those questions with Suryawati Kiyu and Demi Shua, who are the founders of CushCush in Bali, and Amaury Poudret from Networks in France. I will briefly introduce you the profile of our panelists today. So Suryawati Kiyu, you're an Indonesian designer, and you met with Dindi Shua, who is from Malaysia, while you were studying art, architecture and design at RMIT in Australia. You moved to Bali in 2002 and you set up CushCush. You are both passionate about art and design, and you are promoting design and architecture as ways to collaborate and to share knowledge. You have set a very famous design hub in Bali, CushCush Gallery, working mainly with the island's artisans and craftsmen using local natural materials. And you have also developed design projects, socially engaged. The most famous one is the Lagi Lagi initiative, which is a DIY charcoal collection, which won the Good Design Award in Tokyo in 2018. Surya and Jindi, can you briefly tell us where you are now and how it feels living there, and talk to us about your work?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Melanie, for such a good introduction and being our moderator. We were very thankful for EP as well for inviting us, and Amori for this program. We are excited that you agreed to be our moderators. You were our common thread, like the red the red common thread that bring us together, us and Amori. So it's everything that you are here together with us again this afternoon. Thank you, friends, for joining us. I see many familiar names there. Hi, Tessa, hi, Esther, and many others from Indonesia and Singapore and Malaysia. Yeah, thankful for everyone. Oh, of course, and Bali as well. Both me and Jilly, we are in Bali. At the moment, we are at our house. At the moment, we are only working 3 days a week in our current situation. So today is Tuesday. We are not working, so we are at home. Yeah.
Our production is still working 5 days, as we feel that it's important for them to keep working at this point of time, because they really need the pay and the work, so that they can still continue living. Yeah. I think the situation in Bali and in Indonesia is a bit I would say, compared to other countries, we are a bit more relaxed, especially Bali, because the fact that there's not much activity, it's very quiet here, and compared to other countries which have a lot of testing, in Indonesia, I think the testing is still
relatively low.
Relatively low, yeah. So a lot of people have their own initiative to come up with, like for example in Bali, the community, the Banjas, have their own way to enforce that we have to wear masks, we have to stay at home as much as possible. Yeah. So I think that helps a lot, and yeah.
I guess the feeling is still very relaxed. No such thing as panic, because I think Bali also is still, people are still working. Some people are still working. Of course, in the hotel industry, many hotels has closed since April and until now. And because there's no travelers, no tourists, no arrivals. The airport has closed since March as well. Yeah, and at the moment it's beginning to open up in terms of domestic travel. So I think there are flights coming from Jakarta and other big cities, but that's about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe we talk a little bit about us in Bali.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll share some. We'll share some things, and I think we go through this quickly because we have a lot of interesting discussions that we want to discuss, and of course questions. And I think it's very important to share and the questions and answer later. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you see the screen at the moment? Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Okay. So Demi and I, we as Melanie said, we get to know each other while we are studying in Melbourne, and we came back after working a couple of years in Singapore, and we decided that okay, it's time for us to start something of our own in the way that we believe can enrich our lives. Yeah, and so we chose Bali partly because my family was there at that time. My parents are living here, and of course at that time we love the fact that Bali is kind of like the window of Indonesia. There is a lot of many natural materials available. We can see and feel the kind of crafts and in fact the culture that supports craft, and craft is so much part of everyday life. And of course we also meet with many expats and designers as well that make Bali their home, and so that actually is a combination that we felt very exciting. Also talking about more grounded things, more practical things. It's because we are both coming from, I mean, we set up CushCush with our 2 years saving from our working in Singapore. So Bali in Indonesia is still very, what's the word? Very affordable, like very doable as a starting point for us. Yeah. But I think we are very blessed in Bali, and so we felt that we felt very gratitude. And so after 16 years with CushCush, basically doing customized design in collaboration with designers and architects for projects, we started CushCush Gallery and lagi-lagi as a way of us for sharing a way to give back to the society. Yeah. So next. So CushCush, we do customized surfaces, furniture, lighting, accessories, artwork, and objects. We basically utilize the fact that in Bali there are so many of these rich materials and craftsmanship, and also with our design education as well, we combine these elements together to create something that we love. And crafting has always been a part of us. We believe in still the handmade quality of craft, and the fact that craft is usually so much part of culture. Yeah.
Yeah. In 2018, like 2 years back, we have a chance to look at what we have been doing for the past 16 years, and we find that the attributes always come back about nature, about artisan, craft, and design. Basically, these three elements keeps coming back, and so we felt that really that's what is important for us. And from the beginning, I think Bali has in fact inspired us quite a bit with its craft and its nature. So, and we also learned quite a bit from a coconut tree, basically. You know, I think it shows like in Bali and in Indonesia and probably a lot of different countries, different islands. Coconut tree can be used for throughout the whole tree, basically, from the leaves to its fruits to the trunk and to the roots as well. So they call it, you know, tree of life, and there's endless possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think both you and Ginny, we are inspired by the value and the kind of respect that the coconut tree can provide for our for its community, basically. Like nothing of its tree is being wasted. People actually reap a lot of benefits for it at the same time. But they also understand to respect the materials so that it's being embraced as such. So in Bali, the coconut tree is being used like symbolic. The most symbolic of it perhaps is the leaf that can be made into the tanam, the offerings during everyday life as well as special occasions.
Okay, so this led you to this sustainability
Yes.
focus you have. Okay.
Yes.
So with that, we have developed different materials from all the natural materials here. And we try to use it in the different products with our designs. So they are from cabinets to lighting, to accessories. And some of the projects that we have done overseas, supplying for hotels and lots. And yeah, and
our family, like the gallery and lagi. Yeah.
So in 2016, we thought we should open up our space to be more socially engaged. So that's why the gallery and the initiative Lagi started, basically to provide as a gallery, providing as a platform for creative education, collaborations, and engaging the creative community. And Lagi basically we're using our production offcuts to make into useful utensils again, and the smaller pieces are made in charcoal that we use for our charcoal for children program. So we can share it with the local children through workshops with artists and designers.
I think one thing that we felt really happy about is that this initiative Lagi we cannot do it without our creative community, both in Bali and abroad. Like so many of the artists and designers and architects that we invite to come and be part of the program, they have actually welcomed with open arms, and they share, like workshops and other creative programs with children. It's something that we do it as a community-based program. Yeah. And in fact, the children as well. It's very good because for them it's still very rare in here to have the chance to be in very close face-to-face kind of like situation. Yeah, with artists, designers and architects. Yeah.
But how did you cope with the lockdown and the fact that designers cannot come to Bali anymore? Like, how has it changed the way you're working on those projects or the way you will work on future projects?
Yeah, I think it's something that we have been thinking, but at the moment, our CushCush gallery, we are having a program called Solidarity for Humanity. So this is a program that is in response to our current situation, because we see actually in our community, there are many artists and designers and architects who are sharing something about with their creativities in response to the current situation. And so what we are doing is we are being the platform and inviting people to come and share about their ideas and about their positivity, to come and be a force for good, like give people the lift that they need or the positive vibes that they need, as well as real solutions for architects and of course designers and products and stuff like that. Yeah.
So we can see that you're using also a design thinking process. You are using empathy, you are transparent, you are trying to share information about what is happening. So this is really, is this really a designer's response?
Yeah, I think a designer response, but as well as I think us being just human beings, right? And in human beings in a time of in a difficult situation, we want to embrace each other instead of like being in each cocoon. We see what we can do for each other. I think that kind of spirit we need to share. It's time to share. It's time to embrace each other. It's time to support each other. Yeah.
And I'm switching to the next topic, but how have you been dealing economically from the business point of view? You were mentioning that you have employees, so I guess that the situation has been very much disrupted by the lockdown and the fact that the economy has been dragged down also with this lockdown. So how are you dealing with this situation in Bali, especially as you showed projects in hospitality, and we know that this is the hardest hit sector with air transportation at the moment.
Yes. In Bali, 80% of business is directly or indirectly related to hospitality, and so it's really felt. But of course, many people also have like gone back to villages and try to live a more simple life, where it's possible to go into that direction as well. As for ourselves, I think we are still doing projects. Those projects that we are doing currently are projects that have been awarded from before the pandemic. So projects that are ongoing, like the project from Vietnam, for example, it's ongoing since last year, and another project in Bali has been going for the last year as well. So we are very thankful for that. But we can see, I think, in terms of inquiries and other projects, there's not no new inquiries for new projects, and that has been very hard for us because I think since March we can see that decline, because I think the world is coming to a standstill since then. I think for us, we felt that about 80%, we dropped to about 80%, yeah, by about 80% for our own business. And so I think, and earlier on, we met with our team, and we asked for their support as well. So we agreed with our staff that we work for 3 days a week instead of 5 days, and while keeping our workers working 5 days a week so that they can work 5 days a week. Yeah, we try to also think about perhaps other ways of looking at our stock and what we do with our stock from
Oops, there's some noise in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. I think I'm going to ask Amaury the same questions also, because Amaury is in France. Maybe Amaury, you can tell us where you are now. I'm going to just introduce you briefly. We met because you came invited by the Cité du Design of Saint-Étienne to Indonesia for a residency in a company in Yogyakarta a few years ago. And since then, you've been coming back to Indonesia, invited for various instances in Jakarta, and you have a project of coming back. So Amaury, can you introduce your agency, Networks? And it's interesting also that you underline that you are an independent designer. So unlike Jindi and Surya, who have a team and who are employing people, actually producing in their workshop. Amaury, you're working on your own, and you are probably representing most designers in the world, because in France, for example, more than 80% of designers are working in independent companies or very small scale companies of less than 5 employees. And probably those structures are the most hardly hit by the crisis, because the cash flow is not so easy for a small company, especially for an independent designer. The safety net is not big, and it's more difficult to cope with what's happening. So Amaury, can you talk to us about your work, generally speaking, and what has changed for you since March?
Yeah, so hello everyone, and thank you, Melanie. It's a real pleasure to talk with you. And I'm so grateful for to prepare this residency with CushCush, because I listen to you and we share so many values. We share so much that I wrote that craft, nature and design, respect, education, and also transparency. You know, just to be really transparent with what we are doing is really important. And to answer Melanie, yeah, I working.
Oops, I think we've lost you.
On my own, but always with other people. But to have no employees, maybe I would say you are hit, but so it's kind of easier in a way, because it's.
We have difficulties hearing you. Your voice has been cut.
Easier to change. It's easier to. Oh, is it working?
Yes. Yes, it's working now, but you were cut.
So I don't know where it was cut, but I just said that being small, it's kind of easier because you are more flexible. Yeah. So having no employees makes it easier to fall and to start again, you know. And this kind of situation is an opportunity. It's like an obstacle and you can make this obstacle as an opportunity to go forward. So in my way, I really enjoy this because it made my work. It will make my work even more engaged and even more radical in a way. And just to say about the situation, because in Bali, you say about Bali, in France, it was a bit more weird and media oriented and fearful and everything. And in Nantes especially, it's the region where I'm originated from. In Nantes especially, it was very small cases, and it felt disproportionate to stop everything and to have so few cases, because so that was the feeling. And now it's more and more on the road. It feels more and more normal. Should I share?
Yes, please share with us one project or two that you think are really embodying your work. I must say that this panel is a bit biased because both of you long ago you had already started questioning producing more, and you were already on the path towards sustainability. So I think you are pioneers in a way of what is happening to the design world. So Amaury's work is reflecting on this.
Yeah, definitely. And in a way, wait, I need to. In a way, I would say that that every crisis like this is it's not a break. It just continue. Now it's just a continuum, but a bit more, as I say, a bit more radical, a bit more engaged. But we all started before what we will do in the future. So I try to share the screen. Just voilà. Just to say a bit more about my work, I'm working mainly on the being. So the being, the knowing, and the doing. And the starting point of my work is always someone or some people who are specific, who have a specific skill, who have a specific mindset. And I'm really grateful today that this residency will happen, because it started, as you said, Melanie, I was in Indonesia 2 years before, 2.5 years, and I met CushCush, thanks to Melanie, thanks to you. And we, with Jindy, we talked, and we were thinking about maybe doing something in the future. And 2 years later, it will happen. So it's really nice that when something should happen, it always happens. So just to share about the work, I'm still, I still hope you will hear me. So I'm basically working, as I say, thanks to meeting people, and I met a really interesting craftsman, a woodworker, and he had a lot of tree trunk in his garden, and he wanted more, and he wanted a designer to work with what he had, all these trees, all these things, but especially tree trunks. And so we worked together, and I designed the monacal collection. So monacal collection basically is a very simple collection, but only made from the roots of the trees. And when I do a project, I now always work with video in order to tell the story, because every project is one story, one meeting, and one specific method. So we did the video with l'imagerie film in Annecy, and we worked on the story. We designed the project. So every project has different dimensions. So the dimension of the story, the dimension of the design, and the dimension after of the I would say commercialization. So how people can get this, and we try to make alternative to create our own ways of producing and of selling.
It's also, if I may interrupt you and ask you a question now, Amaury, it's also one of the interesting aspects of your work. It's that you have been working for big firms like Ligne Rosé, which is a dream for any young French designer. But you are also producing your own designs and selling them directly, which is probably a way forward and will help you cope better in a situation like now. No? What do you think about it?
I think you're right. And I mean,
you're not dependent on
is,
the clients, not so much.
Yeah, but I still depend on what I want to do, and on the fact that people want me to work on something. But for sure, it's not my work is not related to the economy in a way, because the economy is coming as a consequence. But the main thing is the message and the story we tell, and the thing we want to defend and to show. So all these things, this business and economy, everything, are coming in the end, and I would say naturally. For example, in Rosé, I worked with them because one time I drew something. I wanted to design, to draw something which tells about comfort, about feeling good when you sit somewhere. So I designed the Ilo stool, and I sent it to just the drawing like this. I sent to Ligne Rosé, and then they decided to make it on production. But it's not my main goal. This comes, as I said, as a consequence. But the beginning of this is just an intention, a will that, okay, I want to do this now. I do it, and then you share to the good person, and then maybe it happens. And it's the same for Ecomobilier, because now I'm on this project, Fossil. So it's just a sofa made only from waste, in France. And this project, basically, if I look back, it came because I'm really concerned about these questions, about why buying a new sofa because there's so much sofa, why designing a new sofa because there's already tons of it. And so I shared a lot this concern, and one person one time heard this and said, oh, maybe you could be interested in this project with Ecomobilier. And that's why I designed the sofa, because it allowed me to give a message that we should maybe recycle. So this was in 2017. And now I don't think it's the solution, because it's already old for me, in my opinion. And now recycling is coming to everything, and it becomes a trend. And as soon as it becomes a trend, I think we should go somewhere as a designer, somewhere else.
Thank you very much.
And
Yeah. No, but
maybe,
show us one last project, maybe, Amaury, and then we will go back to a project later.
Maybe I show the project from that I did in Indonesia.
Yes, please.
So it is a project where I met Melanie, and when we were in Indonesia, and this was a really special project and really specific context, and it was not so easy to get something in this chaos, in a way, and I decided to. So I had to work with Andre, who's on the screen.
Andre Suryaman.
Andre Suryaman.
In Jogja.
Natural House on Deco in Yogyakarta, and he started his business recycling bikes, and then he did many other things. So I decided to come back to the origin of its business, and I used bikes as a module to create a small game, so very small reproduced bikes to make a construction game, and also real bike frames to make a modular shelf system. So this was the adventure, and in a way, the project is important, but also the meeting, the sharing of moments, the discovering for me of a culture, and the project is just one part of the story.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful story. I do agree with you. Okay, thank you very much, Amaury, for sharing your projects. Thank you, Jindy and Surya. I'd like to ask you a few questions about what this situation changed for designers, for you in particular, because we've seen a lot of initiatives, even from the United Nations, to call out for designers to design new systems, like distanciation systems, systems for hospitals. We've seen very interesting projects. Maybe I'm going to share some images of that, of designers who have, gone a bit wild. And let me check if you can see my presentation. And I wanted to ask you if design can change the world, because sometimes you have this feeling that a lot has been asked to designers to respond to a crisis that is not. It's a health crisis. It's an economic crisis. So can design save humanity? And for you, I'm gonna share some examples that Amaury selected. For example, this. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Yes. This is the response of a design team called 55 Designer in France for the city of Paris to help people hold a social distance between each other. And you've seen also some interesting examples of hacking some masks, like this Decathlon mask, so that people in hospitals could breathe from the top of their head and not from the front. And some kind of stupid projects like this one, for example. And I wanted you to react to this massive call to creativity in this time, and how would you respond? How did you respond? What did you think was interesting as a response from designers in the current situation?
I think, Amari, you want to say something?
Yeah, go for it. I go after.
Okay. I think just now Melanie said that we are pioneers in our design thinking about sustainability and everything. But I think I need to mention that in Indonesia we have a lot of we have a number of inspiring designers and architects who are in this direction, who inspired us. So, for example, Singe, he is a product designer and he's based in Manggung, nearby Jogja. He's someone who lives in sustainable living and in fact, living from the village, because he believed that the rural living is the way forward in the future. And of course, in Jogja as well, there is Eko Prawoto, an architect that is very humble and grounded. And he's someone who also has been preaching about, of course, like sustainable materials such as bamboo, as well as local wisdom and local context. In Bali, I think we have like another architect in Singaraja, Gede Kresna, who also has decided to live off the grid in some way and built like his own practice that incorporates living within his community. So I think we have a lot of masters like around us, and so we are inspired by them. You know, perhaps our language is a more contemporary. But I think the spirit is the same. So yeah. So maybe you want to talk more about the.
Yeah, maybe I want to come back. Oh no, are you done, Surya? No.
Yeah, you can. We can.
Yeah, I want to come back. So Melanie, to these examples, especially for example the lines of five designers. Maybe I don't know if it's on the screen. It's possible to, because for me all these projects you show, Melanie. So there is the lines for the city of Paris, and there is the competition for mask and everything. I think as a designer, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, this project doesn't fit to the values, to the world we want to see. I think, and as a designer, we should be careful to what we do. If we design the line of social distance, it's a problem for me because we share this value of respect, of education, of nature, of craft. So if we do project on this virus situation, we just emphasize the situation. So we just should maybe, if we have to leave it in a short period, we leave it, but we don't do things on this because maybe other jobs will deal with it. But as designer, we should be connected to our values, to our ideals, and focus to the future, to what we want to see. So that's why all these projects for me are really bad and going in the bad direction. I won't design, for example, Philip Stark said that he will never design guns and everything. So I think it's right, but as I would never design guns, I would never design a line for social distancing. And also making a competition for masks, it's just making design as something really not really interesting, just like a detail, you know. But we should see bigger, you know. We should not focus on materials. We should focus on the context, on the stories, on something more maybe more social, more idealistic for the future.
I think you're not the only one who is taking this stance on design. I read an article recently. The Belgian designer based in France, Rami Fischler, said the same thing. in Le Monde newspaper. He was talking about how desirable imagination will be the task that designers should set themselves to, and not imagining things out of fear. And it's very interesting, but at the same time, it's very difficult because you still have to work and eat. And I think some of those designers have been trying to attract attention, to draw attention to their work, because it may be difficult for them to survive in this situation. I mean, no one would say no to the city of Paris to have a big project, I guess. And
I don't know,
it would be the same in Indonesia.
Yeah, but maybe the design. I mean, for me, if we have to follow the general trend and the politic, the kind of not really good politic atmosphere, it's really sad. I mean, so yeah, and I forgot what I wanted to say. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something. You're supposed to be highly creative people, used to work in your home. Designers and creative people are probably the ones who are the most often teleworking, using distance working. But what effect did this lockdown had on your creativity? I've read some various responses from designers who hated it because they need the energy of the office, the brainstorming together, or the, chance interactions that will bring an idea. Or some designers said that they're saving on time from commuting, for example, and they felt that they were going to a deeper level of creativity. What do you think? How did it happen for you?
For me,
Amaury?
I feel there is some.
Yeah, there is some problem with the sound. If it's a connection problem, maybe you could turn off on your camera and just use your mic. It could solve it, maybe. Jindi, Surya, maybe waiting for Amaury to solve the problems. Do you want to?
Hello?
Are you back? Amaury, are you back?
Oh my God, it's difficult. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, we're listening to you.
Okay. So really sorry, everyone. It's not so. Anyway, so yeah, it depends on the creativity. I mean, because for example, if I take the image of a virus, the virus is inside our body. It's kind of, even if most people are scared about it, we shouldn't be scared. But I mean, if you're scared or not, you look inside, because it all happens inside our body, and I like this because the effect on me is that I already do it, but I did it even more looking inside. And looking inside, you see really what you want to do. You see your deep desire. So you see why you're doing this job. Maybe why you're doing design today. I mean, and that's why economics is not the reason why I do design. That's why today I don't think about economics at all. I just think about the values. I think about the world I want to see tomorrow, and I see that the project we will do with CushCush will happen because it fits together what we want to see tomorrow. So just to answer your question, I definitely looked inside more than ever. And you keep going on this, and you are forced to be in the present moment and to not think too much strategically. You think with your guts and with your heart, and that's the effect that had on me.
Thank you for this insight. Jindi, Surya, what have you felt during this period? what are you feeling? Because you're still at home. I can see from the background.
I think for us, or for me, it's very similar to what Amaury has shared. So it's really time to slow down, and with this, we get to actually review and to see where we want to go next. So I think coming back to those designers who are responding to the pandemic in a very quick manner, perhaps it's of course like wanting to be acknowledged, or wanting to also share something about them. So they're acting more like an artist, actually, yeah. Like an artist usually responds very fast to a situation, and but for us, I think we are thinking a bit deeper as well. So the time that it's providing us at the moment is a blessing for us, yeah. So we think the future, I think the trend of the star architects or star designers would not be as much, or I think probably already died, you know, like I think it would be more of the time for the designers with a socialist kind of spirit that will help to make a difference in the next term. So people like Singh, people like Eko Prawat, or people like Gede Krishna, for example, and even the younger generations like academics and stuff who are really working hard, usually grounded to the ground, and just trying to do something that they believe in, and one step at a time. I think that will actually give or provides solutions, and provides platforms for making the context of the localities as well as communities a better one. Yeah.
Yes, and have you designed a way forward? How is that? Has it shifted your dreams or your aspirations? What is the next thing that you want to do? Both of you, can you share with us this about those dreams you're having for the future? Because
Yeah.
it's possible now to be indifferent to, you know, with what is happening. We have all reacted in different ways, but there's a dramatic shift in a way, and I guess you are a bit forward.
Yeah, we are being. I think for us, the journey so far for the last 18 years is also something that we felt a progression. So it doesn't come about like that, you know, like just click. So the first phase of our journey is actually about survival, because we started just the two of us, and it was more of how to sustain ourselves, how to earn a living for us, being in Bali, you know, at the time. And then of course being inspired by the different people along the way, getting to know the different architects and designers who are craftsmen who are living a balanced life as well as living responsibly. And to live sustainably, I think, is the way forward, not only in terms of economically, but in terms of looking at from the environment point of view, as well as from the humanity as a whole, as to how we become more resilient. We look at things as to how to live sustainably as if we are as a designer or a producer or consumer, right? Because we are designers, but we are also consumers as well, and so we have to be more thoughtful in everything that we decide. You want to elaborate about the nature and
yeah, a few points that we felt strongly about as we have more time to think of the situation now. It's obviously how we can work with nature, because the crisis have probably directly or indirectly it's caused by the changing of our environment. Therefore, we should learn how to work with nature, nurture it instead of destruction, instead of destroying it. So, I mean, we also are constantly looking at when we were making a piece of furniture, the process and the different parts that we use, actually whether it contributes to the circular kind of design, then obviously the second point would be more like simple living, how we can live not in excess. Yeah. So quality versus quantity. Yeah. And I think the next few points, like empowering communities, we learn from by us setting up the gallery, and also lagi-lagi, how we have to actually build an ecosystem around us, so that everyone can have the support of everyone. Yeah. The sharing of knowledge, it's also very critical, because we work with craftsmen, and we also reach architects and designers. So we actually find that this cross information, or how we can learn from craft, and we can also learn, the craftsmen also can learn from the designers and architects. So we can each actually help each other. Yeah. And definitely cross-disciplinary collaboration, a spirit of gotong royong in Indonesia that is really
sorry, I was
embedded. It's actually embedded in our culture, like this spirit of gotong royong, like coming together, achieving something, and then supporting each other. I think in Indonesia, in the current pandemic situation, even though we are lacking in a lot of ways in terms of government support or medical or health facilities, but I think this spirit of gotong royong has really helped everyone, coming together, like helping each other. So yeah, I think that's something that we can learn from our own culture as well. It's definitely a way forward.
This is a way very forward, actually. This is one of the things that struck me and amazed me in Indonesia. It's this, I think Indonesia is extremely innovative in some things, and not, the traditions of Indonesia are very forward in a way.
Yes, yes.
So as a conclusion, because I would like us to take time to discuss with the audience, I can see that some questions have been landing on the chat. What would you say about, as a conclusion to this discussion, has the crisis been helping redefining the values for which designers want to work? It's been a disruption, but is it a total reset, or it's just business as usual for you? I mean, how do you think you will get out of this moment? Like completely transformed, or it makes you believe even more in what you were doing before? From what you said, I think it's probably the second option.
We felt reinforced, right? Our belief in our belief, and we want to see how we can bring it even more forward, right? So I mean, with our upcoming collaboration with Amori also in November in Bali, we are really looking forward as to how even we bring it in the process, as well as in the outcome, and then even bringing it to the society later on. So we're looking at it as one whole circular, how to say it, like from one end to the next end to the next. Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
You're so idealist. I know Amaury will say the same. We should have invited a designer from Audi, you know, or Renault.
Yeah.
Amaury, sorry.
But in my opinion, for me, I'm so everything CushCush is saying. I think the same, but I'm also really humble because I feel really that it's already what I felt, but now it's even more that we should look for population and for people who are closer to nature, closer to tradition, and who are making like in Indonesia a really interesting mix between the past and the future together. And I feel this, and I'm not inspired anymore by Europe. I'm not inspired by our mindset, Occidental mindset, and I really want to turn myself towards other culture, and they are the people who should teach something now to us.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for this. That's a wonderful word of conclusion. Thank you so much. Vimo, it's time for the Q&A. Do you want to take over, please?
Yes, the first question is coming from Bram Satya. I will let Mas Bram Satya to take the microphone. Well, wait.
Hi, Bram.
Hi, Bram.
Oh, by the way, Bram knows everyone. Like he's someone to look out to when you're in Jogja, okay? He's also in the creative industry and a product designer, but he's so much more than that.
Hello,
Because everybody.
please.
Is it starting or hello?
Yeah,
we hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Nice discussion. In Yogyakarta, central of Java. We really now because now we try to read all some of my friends now we cannot send to abroad the product. Now only trying to not make business because now everybody stuck in the business, and the many people, many friends of me that have a business in the try to new system, and then some of my friends now try to do the closed loop economy inside Indonesia. Try to have more customer in Indonesia, local business and local like we try to have a gotong royong. Gotong royong is working together and then try to find a way that we can make efficient our business and so on. That's why my question is because now we stop, but really stuck. I think that's enough for me. And then maybe everybody want to share another idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bram. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Yes,
Yeah,
it's difficult to
you're
travel.
welcome.
Everyone is stuck, and it's a bit panicking at the same time not to be able to do what we used to do. Thank you for sharing this.
That's true. That's right. Hello? Sure. Try to unmute, yeah.
Yeah. Bimo, do you want to share another question?
Yes, the second question is from Charles Onko Utomo. It's maybe it's for both of the speakers. How are your local communities have embraced art and design culture with your events or projects so far? The question is for both.
Hello.
Jindi
Hello?
Surya, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. So just now, before answering Charles' question, just now I think what Bram was saying also is that he and his friends trying to, because I cannot hear properly because there's many stops, but I think what he's trying to start is he and his friend doing it more like a local economy to restart so that it's having the effect of supporting each other. I think in Bali it's also happening, and it's also a strategy. So like even designers who are not or performers or artists, they are doing something else but still using their creativity. For example, they go on like designing play kits or a game that then for children, you know, to be spent at home, or artists putting it together like some kits also, yeah, like to be responsive to the time that we spend so much at home. So things like that.
It's also a lot of cooking.
A lot of cooking are happening. Our friends, even me myself, I'm cooking more and rediscovering tastes that my grandma used to cook. You know, from that kind of family family heritage kind of thing. With regards to what Charles was asking before, we started this social campaign for CushCush Gallery just recently. So we are in the starting point. There are a few of people already started to share, but mostly still in the artists and this artist response. We haven't heard from many designers and architects, and we hope that the architects and the designers would participate more, because your ideas about like solutions in terms of spaces, how to make them comfortable, or things that would be meaningful in times like this is very important, yeah, and help everyone, you know, yeah. But we are still in the early stage, because the whole campaign is until July. So we are still asking everyone to come and join. Yeah. Maury?
Yeah, I don't know what to say about the question. Because I feel that in Bali it's really interesting, all this social sharing. You hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm not sure I understood the question right. But I have nothing interesting to say about social things here in France, because it was, except the personal experience of everything lockdown. The rest is not so interesting. Except I can't listen to the radio anymore. I used to listen a lot France Inter. It's a national radio, but I can't anymore because it's not interesting what they're saying now. And socially, maybe it's more family. Maybe family time is interesting, but that's it.
In Dubai, for another perspective from the Middle East, the scene has been interesting. with a lot of talks going online, and it's enabling us to follow much more discussions. The people from Sharjah, which is the Emirates next to Dubai, have been organizing a lot of talks online, film screenings, and there was a lot of generosity in the way things were done. Everything went free. This is something that we have not mentioned, but communities of artists came together, gave access to their work for free, which for me is also another question for the future, because when you have given things for free, how will we make it not free again after? So it's, but we'll think about that later. But there was a beautiful thing, and I've not seen that much in the Emirates, because you know it's not a very green land. But my friends from France also have underlined the fact that people were going back to the countryside a lot. And so this is something that you said about Bali being very resilient, because people can go back to the village because they have a patch of land, they can feed themselves on the land. And apparently in France, this effect has been seen as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to the rural communities, the rural communities.
Yeah, maybe things will balance.
I should also mention even the immigrants that comes from Java and Sumba and Flores that are currently in Bali. They are also being more and more supports are coming for them. We know, for example, Rumah Sanur in Bali is also fundraising for people, musicians who are really affected, and of course many other social foundations who actually give like basic foods, because food is our first essential things. So like rice, a bag of rice, some oils and stuff like that to just help everyone through.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree also, Melanie, what you said, that many things were free, like some libraries, worldwide libraries, opened the data, and really interesting. I think this is good, and also going back to nature and to gardening, but maybe it's just temporary. Maybe it will come back like before. But the thing I want to say also is about internet. Like right now we are doing this talk, but it's kind of frustrating, because if you want to see interesting things, you have to go online, you have to go, and everything is internet, and it's good, but it's a bit too much. After sometimes you are like over computing. So it's interesting, but we need a physical world.
I have a beautiful quote that I read from the same designer, Rami Fischler, in Le Monde, and it's exactly what he's saying. He says that design must accompany a movement that makes you want to age, a world where our children are neither at the mercy of artificial intelligence nor forced to become semi-robots. Our ability to live longer is unprecedented in human history. You have to accept and desire a society that protects the oldest, and he's referring to the pandemics, which is hitting the oldest. In 30 years, if all goes well, a large part of the population will have spent almost half of their life in this old age. And he was calling designers to imagine for the future, not new products, but a new model. So what we've been talking about from the beginning.
Yeah,
do you have another question? I see that there are lots of questions.
Yes.
And maybe before, I just wanted to react, Melanie, if possible, before the question, you know.
Yes, of course. Please.
Yeah, it's just what you said about machine becoming machines, because we do interesting things, but with internet, like for example, I had some connection problem like 5 minutes before. But I feel like I become a machine and I can't be naturally human and talk like say everything I want to say because of this thing. So we should be careful to stay to not be artificial intelligences.
Especially since this lockdown has accelerated digitalization like in a massive way. I am the director of Alliance Française in Dubai. And so in education, we have switched like everyone else to a complete distance learning system. And it has limits. And it's not so good for kids to spend time in front of screens. So yes, there are some questions. If society is more open to distance working, it will enable people to work from where they want, which is a privilege.
Yeah.
I do agree with the comment from Fong. It's a privilege also to be able to live in the countryside in a way. It will give us more freedom, but at the same time, it will make us more dependent on the digital tools.
Yeah,
there are opportunities for designers to work on this also.
Yeah, definitely. It's true, I agree. And that's why we have to be careful to get strong inside and to stick to what we really believe. And also, I would say to get more spiritual, because if we get more spiritual and strong and aligned inside, maybe we can face the digital age that is coming. But if you're not and you're not aligned, you will get lost totally in the immateriality.
So yeah, the next question is from Rida Razak. I will let the microphone on. Wait.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Mas Rida. Yes, we can hear you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hi, Rida.
Apa kabar? Dindi, Surya, long time no see.
Yeah. Rida would be the man to go to when you are in Kuala Lumpur. He knows everyone in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, good to see you live finally. Long time, yeah. Thank you for sharing today. Actually learned a lot from your sharing. Especially, I actually put some questions here, but you already answered some of it inside your slides just now. But I will go to other questions. You think that the two speakers are from two different continents. One is from Asia and one is from France. So very different in terms of treatments of the lockdown. In Indonesia, it's a bit relaxed, and in France, it's quite strict, right? So I've been speaking to a lot of designers around the world. A lot of the designers, especially at the lockdown countries, they are very lost because they cannot go out, they cannot even buy food, they cannot even go to office. So they feel powerless at home. So having Melanie's talking about digitalization, how can designers start to embrace IT and step it up? Because you mentioned a lot about tools just now, and a lot about some of the first question was talking about they are feeling powerless about moving their products. So can sharing economy start going with digitalization? Because I know for a fact that in Malaysia, we are already looking at digital analytics using university cheap tools and Vivo to find jobs for young people. And then a lot of the event managers are starting to look into virtual events management. And also a lot of companies are starting to do portals and web management system for online conference, online courses, and also, so these things you cannot run. Should us as designers be looking into, instead of treating digital as a tool, because when you treat digital as a tool, you become very stressed, but to treat it as a way of life, because social media is happening, everything. What do you think, Jindi? Can it happen or not? Sorry for the hard question, but I see Melanie smiling because we maybe relate to her. Thank you.
I guess, thanks for the question. I guess it's inevitable. Inevitable. I mean, I guess when we are in this crisis of having to stay at home and you know, in lockdowns, you have to go online. I mean, that's the only means. But there's a lot to learn as well, because I think I was listening to also another chat in Singapore, the Singapore International Festival of Arts, TIFA. There's a group of performers that is supposed to, they have performance festival every year, but you know, with this current crisis, they're just not able to do anything. So all the festivals are cancelled. So I mean, they were discussing on how the performer can explore in terms of virtually, or in terms of you know, documenting through filming or camera, how the performance can be presented in a different way than the real performance. In Indonesia itself, in Jogja, you know, one of our close artist friend, you know, puppeteer group, Peppermint Puppet, Ria, they come out with solution of doing, you know, individual performance. So they can actually custom individual performance for individual needs. So someone can just buy a ticket for them to make a performance especially for them, basically. So there are solutions. It's just how we look at it, I think, that is important. It's still a tool to me, because when the pandemic finished, ultimately we're gonna go back to you know, using different media. You know, it's just that during the lockdown time, we have to find a way to maneuver the activities around the online situation. So
I think being designers, we are often faced or we are often like a problem solver, right? So people are responding to it in creative ways. But I think ultimately after the lockdown finish, like after all this is over, we will need to find our own way of working, like still staying true to ourselves, and make use of this experience where we are in a lockdown and see whether anything we can learn anything else informed that is being informed by this period where we have to be forced to pick up that tool of this virtual or what you call all the apps and all the Zoom meetings and everything. I think the beauty is that we ultimately have the choice.
Yeah, I agree with you, Surya. And I agree, because we have the choice, and we just have to focus on what we really want to do. And just to answer the question also, I mean, because you said for the question, I forgot your name, but you said design is a tool. No, it's a tool, like IT, internet is a tool.
Yeah, a lot of people treating IT as a tool rather than, I mean, some of the new generation Z is making it into a life, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I kind of want to talk about Institut Français, because French institute, like the role is here, because we use internet. I mean, numerical and digital as a tool, because we connect together. But then we need an organization like French, like Institut Français, to make the connection between, for example, CushCush and me. And then the final result is the residency. So we finish we work together, and without internet, with just materials and people, and so I just wanted to say that it should stay like a tool, and it shouldn't be a way of life, because I mean, in my opinion, I would always end up with reality and with touching the materials and with meeting people. So it will just stay as a tool, and I will not integrate this in my way of life. I mean, except as a tool.
Thank you.
If I may add a comment, I've noticed how much digital literacy is a problem. I noticed that because from the 800 students we had in French classes, only half of them wanted to go online. And my team, it was difficult for us to embrace the digital world that we had to cope with during this situation. And we've never been taught that. And it's strange that the most important element in our world, which is the digital age, it's not a subject. It should be the main topic of education. And I don't know for design education, I don't know how design schools are looking at the topic, but you should study philosophers about the digital age, all the issues around your digital identity. You were talking about, we can have a digital life. You don't have to live in the physical life. You can live in a virtual world, but there is no education about that. So if we want to be free, like Amaury was saying, we also need to be conscious about the challenges and who, how does it work? First, coding, we don't know how it works. I don't know. Right. Graphic designers know probably better. IT people know better, but we have no idea how it works. And this is a big problem for me. I think it should be a problem for everyone.
Yes.
I really agree with you, Melanie. Yeah. I really agree with you.
Yeah. I think I agree with you too. Yeah.
That's why the future is in collaborations. You need to work with different experts.
And I think,
peace, my friends, peace.
Sorry.
Peace, my friends, together.
And I think the human touch, nothing a lot like human touch or human connection, we can never replace that. No way. Yeah.
And I saw that in the public there is Guillaume. Guillaume is director of Straight College in Lyon, and maybe it would be interesting to have his feedback. But I don't know. But yeah, education, especially in design.
And there is Tita also from ITB. So if we could have one French and one Indonesian point of view about this issue of design education post-COVID, that would be super interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, thank you very much I just want to say it now, because thank you very much to Institut Français, because doing these kind of things, it's exactly, I mean, it's kind of talking about education, about sharing, and we will do it in the physical world, and they will have a result, and it's really, I think it's really nice, and thank you that Institut Français makes it happen, makes it possible. Yeah.
Totally agree. I think for us to be here presenting this webinar, there's a lot of work and support and assistance that is being put forward by the EC, Abu and his team, right? And of course, a lot of research and everything that it's probably not seen now, but yeah, there's been a lot of work that's put into that. I actually see Matthew Lees and Tita some questions. Hi Matthew, he's coming from UK in Bath. We are supposed to actually go over to UK this year for his festival. What's the name? The Forest of Imagination. It's another sustainable creative program that they put forward. We're supposed to collaborate this year, but now, it's probably postponed to next year. Yeah, but he put up like an interesting question about he's saying that the response to the
maybe answering it. We may get back the question maybe, or not sure.
Tita, you wanted to contribute?
Is it my turn now?
Okay. Yes, it is.
So, hi, I'm Tita. I'm the chairperson of Bandung Creative City Forum. I'm also the focal point of Bandung City of Design for UNESCO Creative Cities Network. This has to do with 3-4 days ago, I joined a webinar with Charles Landry, who's very much into culture, creative city. And the theme of the webinar was crisis as an opportunity for culture. So I kind of like the take, what he said. It's not what is the value of culture, but what is the cost of not valuing arts and culture. So in a way, it's seen that culture and arts and design is seen as a non-essential things. So my question is, design, especially in Indonesia, is still perceived as a luxury or tertiary need, so it's not essential. So how would you introduce design as having real impacts to society? That's from me from now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tita.
Hi, Tita.
Hello.
Actually, in Bali, right? I think art and design and art and design is actually part of life. So it's part of culture, like everyday living. You know, like when people make their offerings, they make this beautiful like objects from the coconut leaves, and it's part of everyday rituals. I think in a way, like even crafts in different villages, we find like different people who share crafts from generations to generations. So I think in Bali, it's deep in the culture that when children grow up, they are in these surroundings where they get to learn and get a taste of arts and crafts and music and dance from very young. Of course, this is all done in relation to culture and in traditions. And perhaps what designers like us do is to actually collaborate and respond to this kind of situation and make something. But I think from young, the children here, especially in Bali, is very exposed. Yeah, I would say.
Interesting. So yeah, it's interesting how you put design as a way of life. It's really nice because you don't just talk about design as a tool for economy. For example, you talk it first of all, design as a kind of like as an educational tool in a way. And I think Bali is really an exception in this way. Because do you think it's an exception or?
I think in general, Indonesia has a lot of local wisdoms, and I think with the development, people loses that touch, that local touch, and loses that local wisdom. And I think when that happens, it becomes a lot of things become commodified, so become monetarized in that sense. So if we can go back to our roots and learn from the tradition or the local so-called local wisdom, there might be something that we can bring to the current solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just having a walk. We were just having a walk in the morning. Behind us there's still paddy fields, and in the paddy fields, the Balinese actually put up like a tall pole with like a windmill. So there is wind power. Bali has very strong wind during this period of time, and it would actually swing and make the sound. Actually the function of it is to chase away the birds when they have paddy fields, and they chase away the bird with the sound. So we can actually think of that as a local responding to a situation for the needs in the paddy field. But from a designer point of view, I see it as why can't we generate power from it? What the wind turbine is designed for, right? So in the local context, the farmer already doing it using the natural, so-called sustainable power, of our surrounding to make into a solution for them.
I think what you say is kind of like the poetry of survival, like how design is a survival tool, but a poetic one. Like how I like how poetry is here maybe in Bali, or maybe in your way of working. So it's like functional but poetical.
Well said.
Yeah, well, the challenge would be different in an urban setting. So most of it in the dense area with really few resources, like even Bandung doesn't have its own natural resource and so on. So for us, especially because I teach product design, so how to convince my students that what they do is actually impactful in a social way, in an economic way, and so on. So yeah, this will be a longer talk, Melanie, if I continue.
Yeah. Let's organize another. Let's ask Institut Français if they want to organize another.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tita. I can see Guillaume Puech has joined us. Do you want to ask a question?
Bimo say, I'm letting Guillaume talk.
Okay.
Should I do something? Should I say something?
Yes.
No,
you should say yes.
Not say, sorry. No. No, it's because Bimo told me you can have him to talk, but Guillaume, but I don't know because if I should.
Ah, okay. So you don't know if Guillaume wanted to talk. So let's leave Bimo with the moderation of the Q&A. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to last question from Matthew Lees. Wait, I will have him to talk. So Matthew Lees is on you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi. Yeah, I was wondering, it seems like the current crisis in Bali has been kind of, the response has mainly been from the community and individuals and being more localized, opposed to here in the UK where a lot of it has been kind of thrown at us by the government. And I was wondering whether through that more kind of small scale local approach to things, that creates a more inclusive approach that thinks about kind of everyone within that community, opposed to some of the restrictions here that haven't taken into account people with certain disabilities, for example. And if so, whether that kind of small community thinking then in general promotes a more inclusive design process in general.
I think we definitely feel that Bali in time of pandemic actually is still very livable, and we don't feel very restricted, and we still go on our lives, even working. We're still able to work and be ourselves in that sense. And yeah, I agree that I think compared to the more restrictive kind of like top down of I think Bali's way of more localized and way is gives individual more freedom and yet still supervised by the community. Yeah? So everyone is looking out for everyone else, kind of feeling. Hopefully it can become like a way of more in terms of design wise, more inclusive as well. If I think like in a situation like this, when everyone is still feeling quite free and not too restricted, we still well everyone deals with it differently, but I think we are in a more relaxed way, and so we are more productive in a way. I went through actually ups and downs myself. So, but I think the environment helps me to be to feel better faster than probably others. Yeah, and then of course when you are feeling better already, and then you can start to talk to people and collaborate, and so and of course like things like this that we are doing today is also something that is a way of sharing as well. So hopefully it's also a way of being more inclusive, like a sharing of different perspectives. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Surya. Amaury, do you have any comment?
I would like that you re-ask the question. It's not very clear for me. Is it here? Can you
sorry,
ask maybe
to re-ask the question? Sorry.
Yeah.
So the question was, so how in Bali the response to the current crisis is being more kind of localized and driven by the community.
In Bali.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah. I guess, and how that creates opportunity for a more inclusive approach potentially, opposed to like in the UK and in France, where the kind of government have taken kind of control.
Yeah,
from
right.
a kind of bigger perspective, and how maybe that's not always so inclusive, and how that kind of has an effect.
Yeah, definitely.
On how inclusive the design process is in general.
And if I would add something, it's definitely collaborative, and in maybe in UK, but in France at least, it's really a paternalist. It's like the state is saying what we should do, and everything should do what it should do, and blah blah blah. 100 kilometers, and only do only this and not this. But I feel in my conversation with Surya and Jindy, there is more responsibility for people, and so when you have responsibility, you take your responsibilities. And if you are like a child, like children, in front of the government who is the parents, they just say what you should say and do what you should do, but you are not invited to be strong and to just do what you should. I mean, be responsible anyway. So yeah, I agree with you what you said, and I have the same. I think we have the same feeling about it. So
okay. Cool. Thank you very much for those questions. I think this was the last one because we are slightly behind the schedule. I don't want to hold you too long. We all have lots of things to do, and we have the future to imagine. So
yeah, I saw Chan just now from joining us from Canada. So hi Chan, I just want to say hi and thank you for joining us from there. I think he's asking something also very just a little bit, like he's asking also I think something very interesting, like in France and in Canada and in more privileged or established countries or rich countries, it's seen that going to the countryside is a privilege act, like a privilege act. But I think in Indonesia, or I think in many more like underdeveloped country, going back to the villages is actually something that is essential, and going like not essential, but it's not like a privilege, because everyone comes from the village and they work.
Yeah.
They work to at the city area or at the urban area, right? So it's an interesting perspective that I see these two very different ways of looking at things.
Thank you, Surya. Thank you very much. Sorry, I know we have lots of things to discuss, and I think I would love to have another webinar about those issues, but it's time to stop now. Thank you so much. As a conclusion, I can say that all you've said is going towards a more engaged design, how designers can contribute not only to producing goods, more goods, but also to create processes, to create dreams, and to be involved, like what you said, like to be personally involved in those new futures you're inventing, by going inside communities, by being a part of your community and activate it, and having a responsibility towards the community. That's the word that Surya used at the beginning of the webinar. She said the CushCush was a way of giving back also to Bali. So I don't know if this virus is a blessing in disguise. It could be also. We could also look at it like this. Thank you very much, everyone, for your very interesting questions, thought-provoking comments. And I hope that you will follow the next webinars that the wonderful IFI team will cook for us very soon. Thank you very much, Amaury from Nantes. I hope that you will come also in residency in Dubai. I'm inviting you.
With great pleasure. With great pleasure. And thank you, Melanie. It's a difficult exercise. And
yes.
So great.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
See you soon, CushCush.
Yeah, I'm already see you soon, yeah. Melanie, we hope to see you in November too.